Okay, welcome to our review of Renée Ahdieh's The Beautiful. So this is the first YA vampire book that we have stumbled across in a long time. It does some things very well, it does other things not so well. Overall, it was an enjoyable read, but there were definitely some big problems with it and some big pluses with it.
The writing style is super good. Like, it's super pretty. I loved it. Like, you definitely felt like you were in New Orleans in the 19th century, just like all of the smells and the tastes and just like the way she describes the city. Like, I was right in there, you know?
And it's interesting because when you look back on the novel and you're like, yeah, you feel right in there, but she doesn't really go into like geography or history of the city or like specific places at all. She just manages to kind of create the essence of what you think the city should be like back then with her descriptions of sights and sounds versus like actual physical points on a map kind of deal. And I thought that was really cool and really well done. And then she just has this way of describing like emotions and things that like physical things that really just, you know, makes up a lot of what is good in this novel and like kind of connects you to the characters and emotions.
The characters are super well developed. Like, you very much get like a grasp on who these characters are very early on in the book. And it doesn't feel like that they're very one-dimensional. Like, everyone is super developed with their own wants and needs and like goals, and that was super nice.
They're very consistent in what they want and what they need, and it doesn't whiffle waffle at all. But one of our biggest problems with this book is the lore of it.
Yeah.
Because this book is like, yeah, there's a whole bunch of lore. Here's a detail, here's another detail, here's this other detail, and these things are related, but it doesn't give you any like thing to put together. They're just points on a lore map that like don't connect.
It kind of feels like somebody read a book and then just kind of like described it to me very vaguely.
Yes. So, like, there's some vampires, there's some demons, the vampires might be demons, there are some fairies maybe, I don't know.
Like multiple realms and like or treaties. It's fine. You got it. It's fine. You're fine.
Vampires are fighting with each other for some reason. And so on that account, trying to put together what is going on. The lore is very important to the villain's backstory.
Yeah.
But because I don't understand what's going on with the lore, the villain is just like...
You don't get what their motivation is. Like,
yeah.
I understand that probably what this book is trying to go for is that you have Celine come into the situation, she doesn't know anything about anything, and that she's supposed to feel isolated because, yeah, things are happening around her, but she doesn't know why, so we as the reader are, like, forced from her perspective.
But we do get Bastien's perspective,
yes.
And he knows what's going on, but he never tells us.
Yes, so that there are ways that he could have probably given us more information, and I found that very frustrating, and it kept taking me out of the story because, like, okay, I get that someone is after you, but I don't understand why.
You're just like, okay, I know this detail and I know this detail, but
they
why can't I...
somehow?
Yeah, it would be so easy to give me, like,
Give me a little. Just give me...
yeah.
You know what?
And then you're like, you've got vampires who are also demons, but you also have fairies, and I'm like, that's a little strange. I would like some more context to that, please. And she's like, no.
This is a world that I definitely want to know more about. I'm really interested in it. The fact that it's, like, vampires v fairies is just wild to me because, like... Think about it.
Yeah, those are two worlds that never in the twain shall meet.
So I really liked Celine. She was kind of an offbeat YA protagonist in a way because she comes into the novel, she has a very dark past. She murdered a guy who, like, tried to rape her, and so, you know, she's a woman, she has no rights, so she had to flee. And so she's like, you know what? I need to settle down. Start a new life. I need to find myself a good husband, and then I will be great, and it'll be fine, and I will live my life, and this is what I want, but it isn't, though.
What she wants is safety and security, and in her world, that's the only way to get it, is to marry, settle down, have a good husband, blah, blah, blah. But
what she really wants is adventure and danger, and
she wants to be, like, the master of her own destiny. Yeah. And have adventures and still be powerful enough to keep herself safe. So she's kind of at war with herself throughout the entire novel, which is cool. I really love that. She's a little too attracted to danger at some point.
So her relationship with Bastien, I really liked at the beginning because, like, it's not a relationship. It's like, that is a pretty man. He is very bad for me, but he's pretty.
And I like that.
You know what? Just have, like, attraction. It doesn't have to be love. Like, that's, like...
That's a later thing.
That's a nice thing. Like, it's nice. Now, granted, she kept quoting Shakespeare and getting mad at people because they didn't understand, and she went to a party and, like, it was a Midsummer Night's Dream theme, but nobody here's read the play, and I'm like, hold up.
Why are we getting so uppity about this? Like,
someone is literally trying to kill you. Can we not focus on the fact that, like, it's fine.
Yeah, everybody was quoting Shakespeare like it was making them sound all smart and dramatic, and I was like...
You know what? Okay, maybe that's just an age thing for us.
Yeah, but it's like, there are other writers out there.
I know.
Like, a lot of people like to quote Byron as well, or like Tennyson or something.
Blow everybody out of the water. Quote Ibsen.
Yeah, sure.
Give me a YA book that quotes Ibsen.
She was just like really focused on this one Shakespeare. It was just like, Shakespeare is the only person who's ever written anything.
Yeah,
I'm smart because I've read Shakespeare.
Rest in power, Andrew Bretz, because that was one of the things that he probably like hammered into both of our heads. It's just like, Shakespeare's great, but he's not the only one out there.
Yeah.
Explore the literary world. Of course, the video that I finally name drop Andrew Bretz is one about a trashy vampire fiction, but I think he'd love that in a way. But okay, so the payoff for the Shakespeare thing, though, is kind of cute, because at the end of the book, Michael is trying to write a sonnet. And it's like, oh, honey.
Because he's like, I don't know, what do girls like? If I were to recite poetry, what would you like? And
you know, like, there's this girl who I'm kind of into, and like, you know what, she kind of likes poetry, and you know what, if I were to like write her a poem,
would she like that?
Would she like that? Would she?
She's like, Shakespeare, go.
So Michael is a police detective who is on the case to try and solve the rash of murders that has been going on in New Orleans, and when we first meet him, he is a dick.
Yeah, he's a real dick, and it's kind of because he doesn't like Bastien, and he's kind of like, yes, I can finally stick it to this dude, but like to Celine it kind of looks like...
Oh, it's bad. Like, when their first interaction, they're at the Court de Lion thing, and like, there's been a murder, and he comes in and everyone's sitting around and he's asking questions, and like, Celine is like, I need to get back the convent, because like, if the Mother Superior, I'm gonna be in serious trouble. And so she goes up to him and she's just like, hey, and she tries to like flirt her way out of this, and he's just like, you are the most beautiful woman I've ever seen, and she's just like, it's working, and he's like, sit the fuck down. And I'm just like, oh fuck, is he supposed to be the second half, like the other part of the love triangle? And it took me a while to get over that interaction, because he was like, he shamed her in public.
Like, yeah, that was bad.
That was like rough. And so then when he's like kind of hitting on her, I'm like, but that social faux pas.
I kind of, yeah, that... Kudos to her, because that was, like, cringeworthy.
Yeah, and, like, then that led me thinking, I'm like, okay, so she literally met the first guy after a fight in an alley where there was a dead body, and I'm fine with that, but social shaming? Oh.
Yeah, it made you rethink a lot of things.
Yeah.
Okay, so Celine wants to start a new life. So she comes over from France to America, and she ends up with this Ursuline convent where they're supposed to take care of her and help her find a new husband so she can go on her way. Celine quickly realizes that she doesn't really have any skills that kind of benefit the convent, so she's like, well, I'm gonna do my fashion thing, because I was doing fashion in France and I know all these things, so maybe I can like sell some stuff to get the convent's money. Which leads her into an interaction with Odette, who is part of the Court of Lions, and Odette's like, hey, I love your shit. Would you like to design a gown for a masquerade for me? And Celine's like, oh, I'd love to do that, but they're not gonna let me out. They're not gonna let me out at night. And Odette's like, are you sure? And she's like, okay, I'll find a way. So that is how Celine and her friend Pippa end up visiting the Court of Lions. And they don't know that the Mother Superior has sent another girl to spy on her, and so they're at the Court of Lions, they're like above at a restaurant, and they don't realize that the murderer has their sights set on the girl who was following them. And so that girl gets murdered, drained of all blood, and that brings in Michael, the detective. Meanwhile, on their way to the Court of Lions, Celine runs into Bastien, beating up a guy in an alleyway. And she's like,
that's the guy I'm gonna marry.
He is hot! Damn it! He gives as good as he gets. He's really dangerous. He's got all this power. This is doing it for me.
And then there's on that level, she's like, do I want to be on him? Or do I want to be him.
And she's like, why not both?
Why not both? So we find out that someone is trying to get to Bastien for reasons, and people around Bastien are dying, and the people who are dying around him are just like, friends, girls. Like, I'm going to make his life awful and take everything from him. And you kind of find out that it's not specifically Bastien who the murderer wants to get to. They're using Bastien to get to Bastien's uncle, who is a fascinating motherfucker.
He's so weird, and we'll get to that, but his name is Nicodemus, and he's just kind of like left the city, and everybody's like, oh yeah, Bastien's uncle, he's great. Really
He's cool.
powerful. Likes loyalty a lot.
So everybody's kind of running around, who is the murderer, and so the murderer actually murders someone in the convent, so then they kick her out of the convent because it's her fault. That's not a very, you know...
Yeah, whatever.
So she ends up going to the hotel for the Coeur de Lions, and like, she almost hooks up with Bastien, and it's a big deal, but then he starts ignoring her. She's like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm going to go to that party and show him up. And I'm just like, why? Like, it's fine.
She almost hooks up with Bastien near the end when they discover the last dead body. That wasn't dead, surprise. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the side characters in this novel are good. Like, I really loved Odette. Odette was one of my favorite characters. She is, like, a very quiet lesbian.
I wouldn't say she's quiet.
Well, she's not exactly broadcasting.
Her best line, I think, is like, I have sworn to never fall in love with anyone as beautiful as I am. So you're safe. And that's like, low-key, I'm hitting on you, but not. And I'm like, you smooth motherfucker.
She's not broadcasting it to the world like, I am not interested in men, but her friends know. I know Odette likes to shock people by wearing pants. She can speak like 7 different languages and likes to swear at people in all of them. She's great, she's fun, she's lights up every scene that she's in.
Then there's Pippa, who is one of the girls who Celine crossed over with. She's sweet and kind and threw me off the entire time because Chelsea's dog is named Pippa.
You're just imagining Pippa as a person.
Yeah, just like, and I'm like, it works. It works. And so her big, like, her plot line that's happening in the background is, so she is trying to find husband, like Celine is, and she ends up meeting up with this guy who is kind of, like, in Bastien's, like, field of influence. He comes from like a fairly like prominent family, and Bastien has always seen this guy as someone who's like upstanding, and he wants him in his pocket and wants to help further his political career. So though you realize that Pippa's future could be a little bit up in the air.
You know what? Bastien is the first dangerous vampire boyfriend I think I have ever come across. The first, and that is saying so much.
Yeah.
Because there's like the one scene where, yeah, he's like with this guy and he's trying to make an alliance, but the guy's brother is a huge dick and also kind of a casual racist idiot, and he doesn't realize when he's in over his head. Did this guy deserve what he got from Bastien? No, probably not. But Bastien was sitting there waiting for any excuse to just tear into this guy, let his court feed on him, and like he does it even in front of his brother, who's like, I can make you forget, I guess, but like it's up to you. It was actually kind of dangerous and kind of a dick move.
Yeah.
Like,
so what we find out, hooray, Nicodemus, the uncle, is a vampire, and he has been protecting his family line because his family line is everything. And so he had 2 heirs. There was Bastien and Bastien's sister. And Bastien's sister died because it was like, I only need one. They're attacked, I only need one. And so Bastien was removed from the situation. The sister was left to die. And so Nicodemus has made a whole bunch of vampires to protect his human fucking relatives so the family can go on. So basically, he's made this like court to keep Bastien alive. You're just like, okay, I have some questions. Question number 1, why do this? Like, what is so, like, it might be legacy, like a legacy thing, because vampires can't reproduce, so if he wants his family to live on and their name to live on, then he needs, like, humans. But, like, it seems so ridiculously extra, and I really want to know what his thought process is. So Nicodemus does not like Celine for Bastien because, you know,
love with a mortal will not work.
Yes.
And it's like, but okay, so lots of questions here. Okay, you're his uncle. Are you really his uncle? How many generations has this been? Why is this important to you?
And he's just like, you need to find yourself a submissive wife. And I'm just like, uh-huh. At the same time, like, I kind of liked the uncle, because the uncle was just, he was weirdly also into Celine. He's just like, I like you. Like, he's like, I will give you anything to leave. Do you want your own dress shop? Do you want money?
I don't want to kill you. I would really like it if you just left. The funny part is, he was super willing to just, like, leave Bastien to die at the end of the novel. So at the end of the novel, Celine wants to draw out the murderer, but the murderer gets to her first. It turns out it's one of Bastien's friends,
Niles, I think, yeah.
Niles. Hope it's Niles. And he's been working for Bastien's sister, who's been in the shadows trying to take her revenge on Nicodemus. But the ultimate confrontation is with Niles.
It's Nigel.
Nigel! Fucking Nigel.
That's why we have the action.
Nigel ends up taking Celine to this church, and he's like, yes, Bastien will come for you, and my plans will be complete, and ha 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 ha. And, of course, exactly what you expect to happen happens, where Bastien comes for Celine, there's a confrontation, and Nigel manages to do a ton of damage to Bastien before he dies. And Bastien is dying on the floor, and Celine is just like, save him!
And Nicodemus is like, no. Like, he's no use to me if he's dead.
Did not follow my rules, so this is his punishment.
I do not want him to be a vampire. I need him alive. And you're just like, oh, so you don't care about him. You just care about the fact that he could reproduce.
Like, it is so bizarre. You're just like, why?
And, like, I kind of liked it. And then she's just like, okay, fine, you save him. I will leave forever.
And
you can make me forget.
And you're just like, but, okay. Is he a ruthless vampire? Because he could have just been like, well, I'm going to turn him into a vampire and kill you. He could have done that. That was an option. Not cross his mind.
And so they bring Bastien, like, they resurrect Bastien as a vampire, and then they wipe Celine's memory, and it's like, I'm not going to leave you empty-handed. I'm going to implant love for Michael. And I'm just like, how am I now very excited for it?
I don't know if it was implanted memories or she's just like, Bastien's no longer in her head, so she can kind of see him differently.
Yeah.
And so, like, you know, she's not fixated on this. She's more open to this kind of deal. I don't know.
I'm just excited to read book 2 because she's going to be like, I'm into you, Michael.
But there's this guy.
There's this guy in my dreams.
Like, what I really want is her to be super into Michael by the middle of the book, and then Bastien shows up. And he's like, oh my god, Celine, like, I
miss you,
I still love you. And she's like, who the fuck are you? And he has to go through this whole thing where he's just like, oh.
Do I ruin her life? She seems so happy.
Yeah.
You know?
And then, I don't know, she gets her memory back, and then she's like,
but am I that person that I was before?
Yeah.
I'm not her anymore.
I love Michael. Bye, Bastien. I mean, we're kind of really excited for the second book. This book kind of had problems. Yeah,
the more I think about it, the more I like it. It definitely sets up for another, like, it's very much like the prologue to something else. I definitely want to know more about this world.
That is our review. Tell us what you thought. Tell us if you found any other actual dangerous vampire YA boyfriends.
Yeah, please.
We want a list. Thank you so much, guys. Bye.